Council has requested me to hand over, is it bundle G or B?
B. B.
My Lord, we needed a copy of the photographs in volume B to assist the second witness for this morning. That's Dr. Steve Naidu. Now, we had lent you the witness bundle that we had compiled, but my learned friend from the state advises me that, in fact, the record he's provided, Your Lordship, is already paginated.
I've never seen bundle B, actually.
We've given bundle B to Dr.
Oh,
Naidu,
you've taken it already.
so that he may consult it during the proceedings.
Okay.
We will return it once he's finished. But you do have bundle B in the actual record supplied by the National Prosecuting Authority, which I'm advised by my learned friend is actually paginated.
Yes. In these archival files, yes. It's because of the bulk, I hardly use them. I always found yours to be easier to deal with.
One can understand that.
But they will be of help, obviously, at some point. I'm not sure. Oh. Mr. McDonald, where do I find? Oh, it's there. Is it there?
Lord, I believe it's page 754.
754.
That's correct, Lord.
Okay.
Thank you,
Okay. There's also another affidavit which has been placed on.
Yes, my Lord. The state wishes to address the court on that affidavit.
All right. You may proceed then.
Thank you. Lord, if it pleases the court, the state has secured a witness who is not part of the existing bundle of documents. He is one Mr. K.S. Govender. He's also different from the Mr. Govender whose statement was already handed in. Mr. Govender, who is present in court today, will testify on similar fact evidence that he was arrested in the month after the late Dr. Haffejee.
A month later.
A month later, in September.
Yeah.
And he will testify in respect of the manner of his arrest, the persons who arrested him, the torture that was inflicted upon him, and very importantly, what he knows or what was said about Dr. Haffejee during that torture.
Okay.
With the leave of the court, then, my Lord, may we, the state, call Mr. K.S. Govender to the stand. Statement that the state will be referring to, my Lord, would then be marked as Exhibit M1.
Exhibit M1.
Correct.
Okay. Yes.
Will the witness be sworn in, my Lord?
Yeah.
Please state your full names.
Kambadasan Subramani Govender.
Do you have any objection to take a prescribed oath? Do you have any objection to take a prescribed oath?
No, ma'am. Okay.
Do you swear that the evidence you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
If so, raise your right hand and say, yes, I do, so help me God.
Yes, I do. So help me God.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Lord, with the
Cohen.
leave of the
Yes.
court and due to the witness's ailments, may he be able to sit during the
Certainly.
proceedings?
Certainly, there is a chair there,
Yes.
I think.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Clear, sir.
Yes.
Thank you, if I may. Sir, thank you very much for coming to court today to actually enlighten us on your experiences during your torture with the security branch. With that said, I'd like to get then into what had transpired. Is it correct that you resided at the time in the Mere Bank area?
Yes, sir.
And did you also, had lived there all your life?
Yes, sir.
Did you matriculate?
Yes.
Now I'll get straight to it. Am I correct that you were arrested by the security branch officials on at least 4 occasions?
Yes, sir.
Did these occasions include the years 1971,
Yes.
1974,
Yes.
1976,
Yes.
and 1977?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, during that time, what were you doing in terms of political activities?
I was a member of the Natal Indian Congress,
Member of the Natal Indian
Indian
Congress, yes?
and I did some work for the ANC in underground.
Underground for the ANC, yes. Would you be able to tell us what that included at all? Would it be, for example, handing out pamphlets, disseminating information
Yes.
about the group,
And also recruiting.
and recruiting persons? Very good.
Yeah.
Now, I'm specifically interested also, like I said, in 1977. Is it correct that you were arrested by the security branch in September of 1977?
Second week in September.
Second week. Would you say this was before or after the death of Steve Biko?
When I was detained, I never knew Steve Biko had died. Only when I was released.
That you found out.
I found
So
Steve
it might
Biko.
well have been prior to his death
Yes,
on the
sir.
12th of September.
Yes.
I see.
Yeah.
Now, at that time, who were your closest political activist friends? 1977.
Ivan Pillay,
Ivan Pillay, yes.
Daya Pillay,
Okay, slow down.
Sorry.
Ivan Pillay,
Daya Pillay,
the judge.
no,
Oh, another Daya Pillay. Okay.
Yes.
Sunny Singh,
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Sunny Singh,
Oh, funny thing.
a former Robben Island prisoner,
Yeah.
and Krishna Ravi Rao, who was murdered in Mozambique in 1981.
Sorry.
He was murdered in Mozambique in 1981.
Yeah.
Now, at that time in 1977, you say you were arrested. What led to your arrest?
In 1977, Ivan Pillay and Krishna Ravi Rao and Sunny Singh had fled the country. And they were very close friends of mine. So they wanted information about their escape.
Okay. Just before that, were you supposed to also flee the country at the time? And did you? And if not, why not?
Well, I was asked to remain behind to continue the work
I see.
in the underground.
And family commitments, did they play a role at all?
They're very supportive
Family commitments, did you stay for your family as well?
also, that's true.
And at that time you were not married,
No, sir.
without children. Now, so you were supposed to stay to carry on the good fight.
Yes.
What transpired then? You stayed, they had left the country.
Yes. I continued with my work.
Okay. What led to your arrest? How were you arrested?
Well, that is the reason, because they fled the country, and they want to know how they fled the country and
Who wanted to know?
the special branch.
Okay. So can you tell us what happened?
Around 1977, around the 2nd of September, second week in September,
Yes.
I was in a car driven by my friend, and about 5 or 6 cars stopped me
Let's just clarify for the court. Which area were you in?
in Mia Bank
In Mia Bank.
on my road.
And you say 5 to 6 cars stopped you.
Yes,
Did they surround the vehicle that you were driven
yes,
in?
yes.
Okay, now what happened thereafter?
They searched the car.
Right.
They put me into their car.
Firstly, slowly. Who were these people?
Well, there were many of them.
Right. And what race groups were they?
There were about typical Indians, Africans, and whites.
Right. Are you able to remember any of the names at the time of this arrest of those individuals?
Well, not all.
No, not all. but
Okay,
any
okay, the major guys.
major guys.
Major Wellman,
Major Wellman, W-E-L-M-A-N-N.
Wellman, yes. Detroit.
Captain, Major.
Well, the titles I don't know, but they,
Okay.
at that time I think he was the captain.
Captain Dutoy.
Andy Taylor,
Yes.
Jimmy Taylor.
Stop. Please, sir, just remember the presiding officer, the judge, is writing what you say.
Sorry,
So can we
apologize.
just look to his
Yeah.
arm? So you said Andy Taylor, Jimmy Taylor,
Taylor, yes.
also known, well, correctly known as James Taylor.
Her name was Jimmy Taylor.
Jimmy Taylor, yes. Who else?
Indian guys were Major Benjamin,
Major Benjamin.
Gopal Mohan, V.R. Naidu.
Do you remember anyone else?
Henny Devitt,
Kenny DeVette, yes.
McPherson.
Yes. Vic McPherson.
Yes, yes.
That's right.
I think he passed away.
Yes.
Victor Raju.
Anyone else? No, it's fine. I know it was a long time ago, so I don't expect you to remember every single.
44 years ago, sir.
That's correct, yes. So, they stopped you. Did they introduce themselves as policemen?
No, just grabbed me.
Just grabbed you. What did they do after they grabbed you?
They put me in one of the cars.
Right, now, they put you... Whose car do you remember?
I think Wellman's car.
Yes, Wellman's car. And were the other members from the security branch with you in the vehicle? Other than Wellman?
1 or 2
One or two. Where did you proceed to?
to my house
Which was a short distance away.
on the same road.
On the same road, okay. From the point of that arrest to your home, were you handcuffed?
No, sir.
No. Did they speak to you in the vehicle?
No, sir.
Any of the members? What transpired when you got to your home?
They searched my house.
Searched it.
Yes. In fact, when they searched your house, they just picked the drawer and the straight and they
Ransacked.
ransacked. They tumbled the beds and the wardrobes, what have you.
And did they tell you, did any of the members tell you what they were looking for?
No, nothing.
Now, once they had searched your home, well, firstly, did they find anything in your home?
Yeah, they took my typewriter away.
They took your typewriter?
Yes.
Okay. And where did you proceed to thereafter, if anywhere?
To a place in town, to an office in a road called Fisher Street.
Fisher Street, okay. Did you later learn what the office at Fisher Street was?
I knew, sir, that
Yes,
it was
tell
head
me.
of the special branch.
There was the office of the special branch.
I knew that.
Again, from the time that you were taken from your home to Fisher Street, to the security branch offices, were you handcuffed?
No, sir.
You then, where were you, what happened at this, at the offices of the security branch?
I was taken up to, I think, to the upstairs via lift. They took me to office.
Okay. Did all the members who had arrested you proceeded to that same office, or one member, two members? Can you explain?
In fact, there were a lot of members around, sir. A lot of members, not 1, 2, 3. There
Who
were
took
6,
you
7,
to the
8.
office?
Yes. Mosaic de Beer.
Mosaic de Beer.
Yes, sir.
I see. Okay. And was he with anyone else?
With the other guys, Wellman and all those guys. Sir.
Okay. So when you got to the office, what happened there, if anything?
They gave me a chair to sit. They asked me a few questions as to where is Ivan Pillay,
Okay.
where is Krishna Rabilal.
Just help us to understand, sir. Can you describe the office that you were taken to? Was it large? Was it small? Was it with desks, books, anything of that nature?
It was a small office with one desk and one chair, a couple of chairs.
One desk and a few chairs?
Yes,
All right. There was nothing else in the office?
nothing else.
Okay. You were made to sit at this, on a chair at the desk?
Yes, sir.
Yes. And what transpired?
They asked me to, after asking me a few questions, they weren't too happy. Then they asked me to write my history, my age, my ID number, where I worked, and all those few things. And as I was writing, they came to me, well, I don't know who it was, just tore the page.
Okay.
And then they gave me a few clouts.
Who's there? Do you remember at all?
At this stage, I can't remember. Sir.
Okay, sure. So you were assaulted.
Yes.
You were assaulted
Yes, sir.
on your face or where on your body?
Mainly on my face.
Face. Right. What then happened?
Then they took me to another room, sir. A bit bigger room.
A bigger room now.
Yeah. Empty room, sir.
Empty room. Did it have a desk? Can you describe the contents of the room?
There was nothing in the room, sir.
Nothing. Empty. Okay. Yes. What happened there, if anything?
They started clouting me. And a little later, they asked me to take off my clothes.
Okay. So then you were made to strip
Yes, sir.
naked.
Yes, sir.
And how many policemen were in this room at the time, if you can remember?
I think they were coming in and going, sir. They were in turns.
Almost like teams.
Teams, yes.
Yes. Okay. So first they made you strip.
Yes.
Right. Then what did they do, if anything?
They started booting me.
Who?
But 4 or 5 at the time, sir.
4 or 5 at the time.
Kicking me, booting me. I fell on the floor a number of times.
Right.
Even on the floor, they were still booting me.
And at this time you were not handcuffed, were
No,
you?
sir, never was. And in fact,
Yeah.
I never was ever handcuffed.
Okay. Were you tied at any point in your torture period?
Yes, I was tired, sir. It was non-stop for some time.
Okay, but we'll take it one step at a time, slowly. Okay, so you were stripped, they started the assault, they were working in groups, taking breaks at intervals. What was the type of assaults that were administered on you?
Okay, the common one throughout the period was punching, kicking, as common.
Right.
The other one was they put ball pens in between my fingers
Ball pens.
and some pens. Yeah,
Pens, yes, in between
And
your
yeah,
hand
and started
fingers.
squeezing it,
Yes.
both hands. And some stage They may sit on imaginary chair like this, sir.
I see. No, it's fine. So almost haunched, but on the level of a chair seat.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
And
But-
what I saw that you had your hands stretched out.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So your hands would be stretched out on either side of you,
Yes, sir.
and
They kick me.
they would kick you.
Yes.
I noticed that you are indicating, for the purposes of the court, under your arms, so
Yes.
your armpits.
Yes,
They were
yes.
kicking even under your armpits.
Yes.
Yes. Where else on your body?
No, then, sir, then you couldn't sit long. You fall down.
You'd fall. Yes.
And when you fall down, they kick you up again to wake up.
Right.
They start booting again to wake up. You have to wake up and sit in that position again.
Okay.
Then you keep falling and they keep kicking you.
All right. So we said that they kicked you. This was on the first day?
First day, sir.
First day, all right. How long did any other torture methods used on you other than the kicking
Oh, okay.
and then sitting on the haunches?
When I was flat on my back at one stage,
First day,
on the first day,
yes,
the back, there's a guy called Captain Victor Raju,
yes,
who is late now, sir.
yes,
Starts squeezing my private parts,
right. Whilst you were lying on the floor,
flat on his way.
and did they make you lie on the floor, or were you assaulted so much that you
Yes,
ended up?
yes.
I see. So you collapsed almost on the floor.
In fact, I fell on the floor a number of times, sir.
Yes. Okay. So, and that had happened to you. What else, if anything?
And sometimes late in the evening, they had some kind of a electrical device
Mm-hmm.
which applied to my genitals
Right.
and shocked me, sir.
Okay. And what were they asking you questions? What were they inquiring about, if anything?
Non-stop about Ivan Play, Krishna Rabilal, and my friends,
And Sunny Singh.
Sunny Singh, sir.
So you were being tortured so that they could get information on where they had gone. Did you tell them anything?
No, sir. But, I mean, you never asked me this question, but during
Yes,
the
sure.
time, they did tell me, while waiting me, that we kill you as we killed Dr. Haffejee.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me just get some clarity on that. You say this was later in the night on the first day?
While they were
Yeah, but
assaulting
in
me,
the evening now.
while they were assaulting me, sir,
So just to put it in context, can you remember what time you were arrested? Or
At
what
what-
time you got to Fisher Street?
I think between 10 and 11, sir.
10:11 at Fisher Street?
Yes. No, so at my house.
Yes, at what time to Fisher Street?
The assault started about, we'll say, 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock.
Yeah.
And can you remember when this might have been said to you? Was it still day or was it
During
now
the day,
night?
well, every time they were kicking me and telling me the name of after was coming about, sir.
Coming up, yes. And the policeman, do you remember who was saying this to you? We will
It
do
was-
to you as we
it-
killed
it-
Haffejee.
It was definitely Wellman. There are many more, but Wellman and Taylor, sir.
Which Taylor? You
Sorry.
mentioned two Taylors.
Jimmy Taylor
Jimmy?
and Detroit.
So Detroit, Jimmy Taylor, and Wellman,
Wellman.
they all said these things to you at various times.
At times, yeah.
That they will kill you like they killed Dr. Haffejee.
Yes, sir. Sometimes you'll give me 10 minutes break to sit down in the chair.
Yes.
Now, if you give me 10 minutes, we come back for you.
And after the 10 minutes and they
They came
return,
back.
your assault would
Assault.
continue.
Yeah.
This was now still all on the first day.
First day, sir, first day.
Okay.
And sometimes when I was alone with the members of with the Indian members of the security branch,
Yes.
Benjamin, Gopal Naidu, Gopal Deva, sir.
You mean Mohan? dear.
Mohan Gopal,
Yes.
and V.R. Naidu, sir.
Right.
They told me that I'm an Indian and they are Indians,
Yes.
right? These whites will kill you and we killed Haffejee.
So were they all three together when they said that to you, or
Well,
at separate occasions?
at different times, sir.
Okay, let's just clarify that. You said when they were alone with you. When would this be?
Like sometimes when they took me to the toilet,
Okay.
sometimes when I'm alone in the chair, sitting on the chair alone, they came to me, approached me.
So they'd be the other team that would actually be...
They were part of the main,
Yes,
team, but sometimes they come alone.
Exactly, I see.
And Benjamin told me this. You're one son for your mother, and if they kill you, I'll kill Haffejee. What happened to your mother?
So it was almost a psychological thing that they were implementing on you. So apart from the assault, they were using words
Yes.
to try to influence you to give them the information that they required. Okay. What language did he speak in?
Sometimes he spoke in Tamil, Indian like Tamil. Sir.
Tamil, yes. You said that. Okay.
Only Benjamin spoke in Tamil, not others.
But you confirm that those 3 Indian policemen said those things
Yes.
to you about Haffejee.
Yes, sir.
This was still also all on the first day.
All first night. Sometime in the night, they gave me a handphone. A phone.
Yes. Whilst you were still at Fisher Street?
Yes, sir.
A handful, yes?
And they told me that they're dialing a woman called Mrs. Marion Zeeman.
Okay.
She was a Dutch woman who was charged with me in 1974
All right.
attending a band gathering.
Yes.
That's how I became friends with her.
Right.
And they told me to tell her that you are leaving the country now.
It means you are leaving the country now.
No.
Yes?
She on the other side said, my other name is Coastal.
Yes.
Coastal, please don't go. I want to come with you.
Okay. What was significant about this?
I don't know, sir.
No, in other words, why were they looking for Miss Zimmerman?
Okay, I'll explain later, sir.
Okay, that's fine. All right, so that was one of the things
And when
to extract
when
information.
the line cut, they accused me of cutting it
I see.
and started booting me again.
The assault went on. Now, apart from, you said electrocution that was administered on you, you said that you were assaulted with feet, punches, slaps. Anything else on that first day that might have occurred?
Not much as much, sir. But my body was very sore.
Right,
And
we're
it was
gonna get-
very painful, sir.
So
all
would you be
around.
able to say at what time these assaults stopped? That day?
Late night, sir.
It was late at night.
I said after 9, sir.
After night. So it was dark at the time, obviously.
Yes, yes.
Okay. And then what happened to you? What did they do? Leave you there at Fisher Street?
No, sir. It was Mother Dibia
Muzak de Beer.
and another cop,
Sorry.
and another policeman.
And another policeman. Yes. And what did they do?
They took me to Mayville Police Station.
Yes.
Well, they spoke to the officer in charge there,
Hmm.
and they took me to my cell.
So you were then lodged in the cells.
Yes, sir.
Now, at that time, and after that beating, from 11 o'clock, or the torture from 11 o'clock to...
No, so I think 1 o'clock, sir.
1 o'clock, sorry, I apologize. From 1 o'clock to late in the evening, can you describe what your condition was like?
I couldn't walk.
Couldn't walk.
Yes, they basically carried me to the car. They carried me up to the car.
Okay. So you couldn't walk, you were carried to the car, they then took you to the station. How were you lodged in the cells? Were you able to walk to the cells?
No, I couldn't walk at all. I couldn't
So they
walk at all.
assisted you in a sense
Yes.
to the cells.
Yes.
And at the cells?
They just booted me into just gave me a boot and it fell on the floor, sir.
Fell to the floor. Sorry. Now, at this time, I assume then you were clothed.
No, yes, I closed it.
Right. Can you tell us when you were clothed? When did they put your clothes back on, or when did you put your clothes back?
At Fishes.
Were you able to put your clothes on?
I can't explain. I don't know, sir, really, but it was.
So it's possible that the policeman had to assist you to put your clothes on, or someone.
Well, I'm just thinking now.
Yes.
I'm sorry, but it's 44 years ago.
No, I appreciate that.
But I was very. My body was sore, so it was difficult. I can imagine, sir, it was difficult to put my brief
Yes.
on. Yes.
Difficult to put your underwear on.
I can imagine that.
And you might well have required assistance then.
Definitely, I believe, sir.
Now, you said that they then took you to the cells and they threw you into the cells.
Yes.
Were you able to stand at any time during that night after that incident?
What happened was,
No, that night.
that night, yeah.
Were
What happened
you-
was, when I fell on the floor, one of the guys, not Mozak Dibe, the other guy, I think he felt sorry for me. And because there were 2 folded blankets,
Yes.
and he made a small bed for me, and he pushed me onto it,
Okay.
and they left. And I couldn't sleep the whole night because
Because?
my body was sore all around me, sir. It was
Did you sustain any injuries, visible injuries to your face?
all
Where-
were so swollen,
So,
burn.
so you were swollen?
Yes. In fact, when the punching me, hitting me, they were hitting me against the wall.
Okay, tell me about that.
Yeah. What happened? They kick you, they punch you, they throw you. I was a small little guy, and
Yes. In fact, may I ask, how much did you weigh back then?
I wouldn't know, sir.
Okay, that's fine. So you were
But
small.
these
for-
guys were huge buggers.
Right, like Vic McPherson. And
He
Dick
was a
Cooper.
big, but I think DBA is very big.
Yes,
Bellman is quite big. Detroit is big,
yes, okay. So they were all quite big guys.
big size guys.
And you said they were throwing you against the wall.
Yes. And I fall on the floor and they kicked me against it.
Just for clarity, pushed against the wall or literally picking you up and
Yes,
throwing you?
they were. It was like a gangsters after one guy. This like
A gang after one guy.
one guy. They're having fun, sir.
Sorry, did you say having fun?
They're having fun.
Oh, I see. Okay.
They were enjoying. While I was crying, they were enjoying it, sir.
And you, right. So then you said that you were lodged in the cells. Did you go to the charge office to make any kind of entry where any of the other police officials were able to see you and your injuries? Do you remember rather?
No, I can't remember, sir.
Okay. Then you spent the night at the cells.
Yes.
Did anything happen the next morning?
Very early in the morning, sir. It was dark.
It was dark.
I
Yes.
didn't know what time, sir.
So it was dark first.
Dark,
It
yeah.
starts dark. Then who came, if anyone, to pick you up?
I checked my cell door opens. 2 guys came in.
Do you recall their names?
No, sir.
Had you seen them the previous day at Fisher Street?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So they were from the security
From the
branch.
branch, sir.
Right. Yes.
They put me in the car. In fact, they carried me to the car, sir.
Carried you to the
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Not literally they dragged me.
Okay. Yes.
They took me back to Fisher Street.
In the car and en route to Fisher Street, were you able to sit up? Were
No,
you?
no.
So what were you in the car, lying down,
Yes, lying down.
invisible to any passerby?
Nobody can see me.
Okay. And you were then whisked off to Fisher Street.
Yes, sir.
What happened there on the second day?
They took me back to the same floor.
Yes.
They gave me tea and started bread. In fact, I never had lunch that night, the day before, no supper, sir.
They gave you tea, bread, something to eat.
In
Yes.
the morning. Yeah.
Morning.
And they came again and asked me the same questions.
Okay. Now, apart from, you've mentioned the names of white personnel or members that had assaulted you. Did any of the Indian members assault you during this ordeal?
Yes, but they were very mild form, unlike the whites were very vicious.
Okay. Do you recall any of the Indian members that might have assaulted you? Their names?
Benjamin, Shan Governor,
Shan Governor.
they call him nickname Shruti.
Shrewd.
His nickname Shrut.
Shrewd. Okay. Yes. We've heard the name before.
V.R. Naidu,
V.R. Naidu.
even Gopal Mohan.
Yes. These are all the members that assaulted you.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, second day.
They saw started again, sir.
Started again. Same questioning.
Same question, same level, same guys. And
Same guys, same modus operandi, basically the same way
Yes.
as the day before. Now, did you have any experiences of being with your head in a toilet pan at all?
yes, sir.
Okay, first day, second day,
The first day, I think
you omitted to tell us that.
sorry, yes, the first day It was Mosaic De Beer, and Captain Taylor.
Yes, Taylor, what
Jimmy.
did they do?
They grabbed my hair and long hair,
Right, okay.
and they pushed me in the toilet pan.
Where was the toilet pan? On the same floor, in the same... Okay, that's fine.
Sorry, sir, but they definitely put me in the toilet pan.
Right.
And I kept kicking.
Kicking, yes.
Yes, sir.
Tell us about the experience, yes.
It's very humiliating and
Humiliating, I can imagine, yes. And were you able to get out, in other words, or did they pull you out?
well, I pushed myself out from this.
And when you did so, did you get injured at all in any way?
Not that I remember, sir.
Okay. Did this happen more than once or just once?
Twice
On the same day or on different days?
on a different day.
Now you said at some point you were also tied up, bound. You said they tied me, but I don't know at which point this was.
No, sir, I don't know the time.
So you were never tied,
Never tied, sir.
right? Were you assaulted with any weapons at all? Sticks, bats, anything?
The only weapons they use, use the ball pens on
Your finger.
ball pen, and that device on my genitals. I know it was. I was lying flat on the ground, back with my back.
I see.
No, they attack me physically. Sir.
Now, did your torture at any point stop or slow down?
Sometimes on the second day at about 2, 3, I think I suspect.
Yes.
There's a guy called Kutsia.
Okay. Do you know his first name at all or his rank at all?
He seemed to be quite senior because he stopped the assault.
Kutsia.
Yeah.
Yes, he stopped the assault.
I don't know why, sir.
Okay. Did he speak to anyone to stop it?
He
or-
told them.
Were you present when that happened?
Yes.
Who did he speak to?
Whoever was assaulting me.
I see. Okay. So he stopped them. Did he speak? Did he say anything that you heard as to why they needed to stop the assault?
No, sir.
Okay. Yes. Proceed from there. So the assault stopped on the first, second, on the second day.
Yes, sir.
On the second day. With hindsight, would you venture a reason why it's possible that they stopped the assault on that second day?
I don't know because when I was released from prison, I found that Steve Bigger died,
Yes.
and I believe there was a uproar,
Right.
and I was under impression because they got a bit scared because there was an international outcry.
Yes. That they stopped the assaults on you.
This is my suspicion, sir.
Hindsight. Yes. Then
I also say the first day when they detained me, sir, they told me that you are detained under 66 of the Terrorism Act, and they won't get no visitors, no lawyers, no doctors. Right. And during my detention, 2 men approached me 2 different times. They told me they are from the district surgeon office. So I didn't trust them because it all looks like.
I see. You didn't believe that they were in fact
Yes, they all
medical
look alike.
practitioners or doctors.
Yes, and another guy came. He told me he's a magistrate also
Okay. And this was at Fisher Street or at the police station?
at the stations.
At the station itself. Okay. Did you tell them that you were injured at all?
No, I was scared.
You just kept quiet. All right. And when were you released thereafter?
About a week and a half later.
A week and a half later. And during that, after the second day, were you assaulted again until you were released?
Very minor assaults. Sometimes 1 to clouds and kicks. It's nothing.
So it really toned down a
Yeah,
lot.
not as the first 2 days.
And you didn't give up any information at all about your comrades. All right. And after your release, you then went back home. All right. Now, can you just give us a little bit of history? I asked earlier if you had been married, and I also asked if you had children. Remember that? And you said no to both of them. Was there a reason why?
I last worked in 1974.
Yes.
I was fired from 2 jobs in 1 year.
All right.
And in fact, the the special branch got me fired.
At the second job or the first?
Both jobs.
Both jobs. Can you tell us that experience? 1974, were you working at the...
First, I worked at the library.
Yes.
I took a legal off
Right.
to demonstrate against an apartheid system called local affairs government.
Okay.
And the town clerk came there and he took my name down.
Right. And you were then released, fired.
Fired, yeah.
Okay. And the second one?
I worked in engine refinery.
Yes, the refinery.
They came home one morning to charge me for attending the band gathering.
A band gathering in 1974.
Yes.
Right. You were picked up by the security branch, as you say.
From my home.
From your home.
At 4 in the morning.
Who? You recall?
There was a guy called Captain Naiga
Naida
and some white guys.
and white guys. What did they do?
They searched my house.
Yes.
They found nothing. They took me to the refinery where I worked.
Yes.
I sat in the car and went into the refinery. And they came back and told me, you are now fired. They
Were
told
you
me.
in fact fired? Did you find out that you were fired?
Yes, when I went to work 2 days later, I was fired, sir.
Since 1974, have you been employed?
No, sir. Till 94.
1994, the new government.
Yes.
And in that period, as I asked, why didn't you get married or have children?
I wasn't working,
Yes.
and also I've been harassed almost quite often by the special branch.
So, being a political activist meant that certain sacrifices had to be made.
And I found a lot of things of my comrades who were in prison.
Right.
Many comrades were in prison and were in detention. They were divorced.
Okay. Had a strain.
And the children were, and the families were neglected.
I see.
I didn't know that happened to me.
Since that time, did you have occasion to speak to any of the security branch members?
Yes. I spoke to Gopal, Mohan Gopal. I spoke to Major Benjamin.
Okay, let's talk about Benjamin first.
Okay, Benjamin phoned me and he wanted to see me.
Yes.
So I went to his office in Tonga.
Tonga. And which year was this in?
After the unbanning of the ANC and after I got a job as a
So in the 90s?
90s.
Sometime in the 90s, yes?
When I went to his office, he told the secretary, no calls. I'm talking to a very important man here.
Right, okay.
And he virtually fell on my feet
Right.
and he apologized to me,
For?
assaulting me.
In 1977.
Yes, sir. And even for my mother, and apologized to my mother also.
I see. And Mr. Mohan Gopal?
Yes, sir. We became friends and we had a few drinks together.
So you were able to reconcile with
Yes,
him?
yes, sir. Yes. And I went to meet Shan government also.
Yes.
So,
And did you forgive
Yes.
your persecutors?
yes, I've been met Mozak Dibia. In fact, he hit me the most.
Right.
And apparently he's still alive today.
Right, okay.
He also apologized.
I see. Thank you. Nothing further then, Lord.
Giovanni, any questions?
Lord, just a few questions. Mr. Governor, firstly, thank you for agreeing to cooperate with my learned friend for the state. Your evidence is very useful for these proceedings. You mentioned in your evidence in chief that prior to your assault on the first day, you were stripped naked. Do you know why they stripped you naked?
What I found, sir, even in my 2 other early detentions, they did strip me naked, sir. I think they want to humiliate you.
So it was for purposes of making you feel embarrassed
Yes.
and small.
Yes.
you think there might have been any other reason aside from the humiliation?
I can't find any reason.
Okay. When you were assaulted, perhaps from either scratches or abrasions, did you bleed occasionally or at all?
I never bled at all, sir.
You didn't bleed at all?
At all,
Okay.
sir.
Do you think one of the other reasons is to prevent the clothes from getting damaged or torn?
Could be, sir.
Possibly.
Could be, sir.
And perhaps, in the possibility of you bleeding, also to avoid blood getting onto the clothes. So you've mentioned that Warrant Officer Mohan Gopal was part of the interrogation team.
Yes, sir.
My Lord, if I may just pause to indicate that Warrant Officer Gopal, who will be testifying before your Lordship, is implicated in criminal offences by this witness. Now, according to my learned friend for the state, Gopal's attorney has been notified of these proceedings and has been notified that he's entitled to be here throughout the proceedings. My Lord may wish to indicate that Mr. Gopal's attorney is not present and that perhaps he ought to be present to protect the interests of his client.
Well, since this witness is only testifying about other matters that are unrelated to what we are dealing with today, I don't know if there would be any prejudice to him insofar as our proceedings are concerned.
Yes, my Lord, I'm not suggesting for a moment that we suspend our proceedings.
Yes.
But it may be prudent for the court to direct that perhaps another communication be issued to Mr. Gopal's attorney indicating that he is entitled to be here, particularly in the light of the fact that his client has been implicated.
Well, if he has been advised, I don't know if he has been warned of what this witness was going to say today, but are you going to get into the details of what Gopal did? Or it's just his presence there and that maybe he did do something?
My Lord, we will almost certainly be confronting Mr. Gopal with this evidence when he appears.
Mm.
My Lord, while we're on that, my instructing attorney advises me that V.R. Naidu will also be appearing, and he is also implicated. My Lord, we just place that on the record.
Well, I don't know if Mr. MacDonald made this statement available. Does he state the role played by Gopal in his statement, Exhibit M1?
Sorry, my Lord?
Does
The legal representative?
this witness
Yes.
specify what Gopal did to him?
In his statement, no, my Lord.
He doesn't?
No.
He doesn't in the statement?
No. But what the state will do, Lord, is have a disc transcribed of this witness's evidence,
Yeah.
and I will have it sent to the representative to have a closer look at it. He can always then be advised of exactly what it contains.
Mr. Vani, I do not know whether that would be fair to Gopal to extract more information implicating him without having been advised of this witness testifying today and the details of what he was going to say, so that he could make an informed decision whether to attend the proceedings or not.
My Lord, typically where you have police officers potentially implicated in inquest proceedings, certainly our experience have been in earlier inquests that those attorneys are here throughout. They don't necessarily have to be warned in advance. These are judicial proceedings, and the attorney is aware that the possibility may arise. So I don't believe any special treatment needs to be given, but the attorney needs to be reminded that he is entitled to be here throughout.
Well, you may proceed. Then, if necessary, this witness, if they want to challenge anything afterwards, when they show up, after hearing what this witness has testified about, they may want to question this witness or on those details that you may extract from him. But you may proceed.
Indeed, my Lord, but as a practical matter, Mr. Gopal will be one of the last witnesses to testify.
Yes.
And there may not be time to recall this particular witness. So my suggestion, my Lord, is that perhaps an arrangement can be made to send the recording of this evidence together with the statement to the attorney.
I think that is what Mr. MacDonald says he would do, so that they may decide what to do.
Yes, indeed.
Mr. MacDonald?
And in fact, Mr. Gopal is implicated in this statement. In the last paragraph, that's paragraph 12, second line, the Indian members, namely Gopal, VAR and Benjamin, kept on saying, these people will kill you like they did to Haffejee. Tell them the truth. You cannot afford to lose your mother, who is a widow. So there's certainly an implicit threat made there.
You may proceed. We'll
as a court pleases.
Gopal's attorneys advise of this evidence, as Mr. MacDonald has promised to do.
As the court pleases. So, Mr. Governor, you've said in your evidence in chief, and it's also reflected in that paragraph 12 of your statement, that while the police were assaulting you, and you mentioned that these were people such as the two tailors and others, they said that they will kill you just like they did in respect of Dr. Haffejee. And then you were reminded of that by the Indian members, including Mr. Gopal. Did they mention or describe how they would kill you like they did to Dr. Haffejee?
No, sir.
So they didn't set out any details as to what in fact they would do?
No, sir.
They simply said that they would kill you like they killed
Yes.
Haffejee. You made reference of the Dutch woman, Marianne Zimmerman.
Yes, sir.
Was she subsequently arrested?
I'm not too sure, but she fled the country, sir, sometime later, and she married my friend called Sunny Singh in exile, sir.
All right, so it sounds like she managed to escape before she could be arrested.
Sir, I have a doubt, but I think she was detained, sir. I'm not too sure, sir. It's a long time ago, sir.
You also mentioned that after your assault, in order to be taken back to the police station, you couldn't walk. You had to be carried.
Yes, sir.
Do you recall who carried you?
I only remember the first time when they took me to the police station. But taking back the second time, I can't recall, sir.
Okay. You can't recall if Mr. Gopal was one of the members that carried you?
I can't remember, sir.
My learned friend for the state asked you whether you sustained any injury to the face. And I just couldn't quite recall what your response was. Can you remind me?
Well, my lips were swollen.
Can you recall how they were assaulting you on the face?
Slaps. There's open hand slaps.
Open hand slaps?
Yes.
Okay. So I thought you said straps.
No, slaps, sorry.
Oh, slaps. Okay, right. And why do you think they use an open hand slap on your face rather than perhaps a punch?
They were only concentrating on my back, my buttocks, on my legs, you know what I mean? But
Right.
my face were only
Maybe the slaps.
slaps.
Would I be correct in saying that they probably confine themselves to slaps on your face to avoid visible injuries on your face?
I suspect that is true, sir. I believe that.
And then, lastly, Mr. Govender, you mentioned that the Indian members engaged in a mild form of assault against you, not as severe as the white members.
Yes, that is true, sir.
And these included Benjamin Govender, I think his nickname was Shrews, Naidu, and Mr. Gopal. What kinds of assaults were these milder forms of assaults?
Just to want to kicks, want to clouds, sir. Also, I didn't mention there were also black members of this group also assaulted me, sir. But I can't mention. I don't know what they are, sir.
Right. When you say black members, black African members,
yes, member also.
and are you saying they also engaged in these
Yes,
milder
yes.
forms of assault?
Yes.
So the milder form of assault included kicks.
Want to clouds and
When you mean a clout, or what do you mean? Slaps
Yeah,
to the
yeah.
to the face. Did it include punches?
no. Well,
No.
even punches were very mild, sir, very light punches.
Right. No further questions, Your Lordship.
Any recognition, Mr. MacDonald?
No, thank you, Lord.
My Lord, just my learned junior just reminds me that we do have some photographs of the two tailors, and we can actually place this on the screen. We would just like to see if Mr. Govender is able to recognize these faces. The only problem we have is that the judge's screen and the public screen are not connected, it seems. My Lord, now that I'm examining these photographs, it defeats the purpose because the names are in fact included. We should have obscured those names.
Well,
But in any event, Mr. Governor, do you recognise the faces in
All three, sir.
You recognise all three?
All three, sir.
Were all three present during your interrogation?
Yes, sir. All three, sir.
Okay. And just for the record, can you identify the faces you're seeing in the photographs?
Andy Taylor, left Andy Taylor, in the middle is tight and right is limited.
Right. And the exhibit number for this document
Sorry, I'm not sure
is-
whether we are looking at the same pictures, because the one that is in front of me shows an observer from Amnesty International, Lord Avery.
Yes.
It's not.
All right. So the witness is mistaken in respect of the third photograph, which is one Lord Avery from Amnesty International. My Lord, I think this exercise is not a good one, and also because the names are reflected. But nonetheless, for the record, the exhibit number is it's volume H, and it's at page 1828.
Okay.
No further questions, my Lord.
Okay. Any re-examination, Mr. MacDonald?
No, thank you, Lord.
Thank you, Mr. Cavender, for your time. You may be excused. Is it convenient time to take a tea break?
Yes, Lord, I believe so.
We'll proceed at 12 then. Court is adjourned.
Think about it. I wouldn't.
Too late for that.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr.
My Lord, the
McDonough.
next witness that will take the stand is Dr. S. Naidu.
Where do I find his affidavit?
You have copy?
My Lord, his report, the report dated 20th June of 2018, can be found at Exhibit G24 at page 1575.
Thank you. Thank you.
My Lord, before we start with Dr. Naidu, just a quick word on the virtual hearings. My Lord will have experienced the difficulties we had yesterday with the audio
Yeah.
at the NPA. My Lord, we do have a proposal to make to try and overcome these technical difficulties and also the problem of being out of court in another building.
Yeah.
My Lord, we propose that we ask technical consultants, namely the Big Beat Company, to rig up this court for virtual hearings.
Okay.
They have offered to do so, my Lord. They've given us a quote. And my Lord, I'm aware that immediately when it comes to money, there are issues, but we are willing to raise funds independently from the Foundation for Human Rights to cover the costs of rigging up the court
Okay.
for 2 days, possibly a third day, in which case we will then be able to use the TV screens here
Okay.
to stream in witnesses from afar, and hopefully with the audio equipment that Big Beats can provide, there won't be any issues with hearing. So if my Lord is in agreement,
That would be okay. It will save us a lot of time and the up and down. If that were to be done, I'm happy. I'm happy with your proposal,
thank you, my Lord.
and I support it.
So, my Lord, if we then have the authority to proceed, we will then instruct Big Beats to rig up the court
Yes.
for Monday, where we have at least 2 witnesses who will be testifying from Johannesburg.
Okay.
And then again on Wednesday, when we have a forensic pathologist,
Okay.
Dr. Shakira Holland, also testifying from Johannesburg.
Yeah.
And then possibly also on Thursday, when there is a witness who is elderly and sick based in Durban who doesn't wish to travel.
Okay. No, that would be great, Mr. MacDonald.
That is suitable.
It's
my
not
Lord.
going to hit your pocket, I understand.
Yes, my Lord, I believe that would be suitable then to the state.
I think so, yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Vani.
As the court pleases, then we'll instruct the foundation as well as Big Beats to go ahead and they will make the necessary arrangements
Please.
with the court registrar.
Okay, thank you. Yes,
My Lord, our next witness is Dr. S.K., Dr. Stephen Naidu. He's an independent forensic pathologist.
yes.
Please state your full names.
My name is Segren Ramalu Naidu.
Do you have any objection to take a prescribed oath?
No,
Do you swear that the evidence you are about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, say yes, I do. So
yes, I do. So help me God.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Vani.
As the court pleases. Dr. Naidu, before we proceed, since you are testifying and you're behind a perspex glass, you're welcome to remove your mask if you so wish.
Thank you, my lord. I think that...
Feel free to sit down as well if you feel like.
Thank you. I'm happy to stand. I
Okay.
actually prefer to stand, and I do believe that the distance will probably mean that just to speak without the mask is probably quite safe.
Yes, and it will be clearer for the rest of us as well.
Thank you.
My lord, before we proceed, there are an additional number of exhibits we would like to hand up that have bearing for Dr. Naidu's evidence.
Yeah.
My lord, we mentioned that in volume G, at G24, page 1575, is the independent medico-legal report of Dr. Naidu, dated 28 June 2018.
Yes.
My lord, we have learnt that, in fact, there's an updated version of that report, which is dated 23rd February 2021, which unfortunately did not find its way into the record in volume G. We will canvass the differences between the two reports with Dr. Naidu, but I'm advised in advance that the differences are not significant.
Okay. Okay.
So, my lord, we will be handing up the latest report dated 23rd February 2021, and we'll be marking it L4.
Yeah.
My lord, there's also a supplementary report that Dr. Naidu was asked to prepare. It's dated 24th February 2021, and my lord, that supplementary report deals with the evidence of Warrant Officer Gopal, and we're going to mark that supplementary report L5.
Yes.
My lord, then there is an article that my learned junior discovered dealing with the question of knots and ligatures and distinguishing between homicide and suicide knots. And we gave a copy of this article to Dr. Naidu, and he prepared some comments on the article as it pertained to the Haffejee case.
Yeah.
My lord, we're going to mark the article in question, and for the record, it is titled Distinguishing Between Homicide and Suicide Knots and Ligatures, a Comparative Analysis of Case and Survey Data, and it's by one Robert C. Crisnell. And my lord, we're going to mark that paper L6. It's published in the Journal of Forensic Sciences, which I believe is a Canadian publication.
Yeah.
My lord, there's also the question of the dentures, and we have asked Dr. Naidu to comment on the question of the dentures, and we will be putting questions to him. He did provide us with a short note, which we'll be handing up as Exhibit L8.
Not 7.
My lord, I beg your pardon. I forgot to give you the L7 exhibit, which in fact is Dr. Naidu's commentary on the knots and ligature article, and that will be L7.
Okay.
And then his comments on the question of the dentures will be L8.
Yeah.
So, my lord, with the leave of the court, we'd like to hand up these exhibits L4 to L8.
Thank you.
As the court pleases. Dr. Naidu, firstly, it's good to see you again.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for the really comprehensive report and supplementary reports that you have provided this reopened inquest. They are extremely useful. As I mentioned to His Lordship, we are in possession of 2 independent medico-legal reports from yourself, one dated 28 June of 2018, which we'll describe as the first report,
Yes.
and then an updated version of that report dated 23rd February 2021, which we've just handed up as Exhibit L4. And as you heard, the second report was not originally in the record. So up until this point, most of us have been working on the original report.
Oh.
And certainly my markups, which I'll be relying on, I've been working on the first report. So I wanted to ask you, what are the main differences between the 2 reports?
Lord, what I can say is that there's certainly no contradictions in the report. There would have been editing corrections and perhaps a bit of augmentation and supplementation of the existing arguments and tightening up of the text. Certainly no contradictions. In preparation for court, I applied myself to my second final report only. So I don't think there's too much of concern about, there should be too much of concern about changes.
Well, I'm very pleased to hear that, but as a precaution, I'm going to have both reports open at the same time.
Thanks.
It's my intention, Doctor, to take you through your report in a systematic basis. And in that way, I think it'll be easier for the court and others to follow the evidence you're about to give.
Sure.
As discussed with you before you took the stand, where you feel that it would be helpful to His Lordship to see a photograph or a description, then you're free to pause, and my learned junior will then flash up the photograph in question. You simply have to give us the page number.
Sure.
And where my learned junior listens to the evidence and comes across a photo that perhaps you haven't highlighted, he'll bring it to my attention, and I may suggest to you that we take a look at it.
Okay, that's fine.
And I understand that you do have a pointer that
Yes,
you're able to use to point out any specific aspect should we
Yes, I
need
do.
arise.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So before we proceed, can I just get you to confirm that, in fact, the 2 reports in question, the first report at G24 and the second report, which is now L4, that these are your reports and you confirm the correctness of their contents?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. And is it correct, Doctor, that you received instructions from Advocate Shubnam Singh of the National Prosecuting Authority to prepare these reports?
Correct. That was in 2017, October.
And if we can just deal with your educational background and your credentials, which I understand is set out in some detail at Annex B, and perhaps we can turn to Annex B. which is page 26 of the first report, and I believe also page 26 of the second report. Could you perhaps give us a whirlwind tour of your expertise and your academic qualifications and then your career?
Thank you, my lord. I am, as stated, a forensic pathologist, so medical doctor specializing in forensic pathology. As of 2021, I would have approximately, forgive me, 35, 37, 36 years of experience working in forensic pathology. I've been a specialist from 1990, so that is a specialist for the last 31 years. 8 years, most of the time I have been in the state as a state pathologist based in Durban. I have done cases here, I've testified in these courts in Pietermaritzburg. And for 8 years of my working career with the state, I was also a joint, well, I was always joint lecturer, but I was jointly appointed professor or associate professor in forensic medicine for 8 years, from 2003 to 2011. Subsequently to that, Your Worship, my Lord, is I've spent a lot of time. I went to private practice consulting, but I spent a lot of time still doing consultations and casework, working with big international organizations, including United Nations, in Bosnia, Croatia, Kosovo, and then in South Sudan, Switzerland, well, not in Switzerland, but dealing with a case from the Eastern Bloc countries, in West Africa, and in the sub-Saharan region, Namibia, Swaziland, Lesotho, Zimbabwe, and here. So I've done a lot of extensive work. I believe that my experience probably amounts to between 10 and 15,000 postmortems altogether, mainly on unnatural deaths. And then recently I have taken an interest in clinical forensic medicine to the extent that I have been teaching and training legal aid attorneys. I've done a lot of clinical work, and in that clinical and pathology work together have examined abuse cases, cases of torture, cases of deprivation, and lots of assault cases, to the extent that I've specialized or super specialized to an extent in injury analysis and sexual violence. So actual injury, deep analysis of injury and sexual violence. Just to end this up, I have been the main forensic medical specialist for the Marikana 34 deaths, plus also the 70 plus clinical survivors from the hospital records. And I've then also dealt with living patients of abuse and arrest in many places. I've worked with the Wits Fees-Musk Fall cases and scattered others. I'll stop there, Your Worship, my Lord, but just to indicate that my experience in injury analysis and evaluation and reconstruction of injuries seen to the context in which it was suspected to have occurred has become a special interest of mine. I have, that's important to state, that I have, in the course of those 10 to 15,000 postmortems, and done a number of hanging, strangulation, neck injury of various types of deaths. And finally, all through that time, I have been teaching and training, not undergraduates and medical students, but postgraduates and doctors all over the country and in parts of Africa, yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Certainly a very impressive background. Doctor, have you given evidence previously in judicial inquests dealing with deaths in custody or detention?
Yes, I have, yes.
I'm aware of at least two.
Yes.
Have there been any more?
Yes, there were a number of them that didn't gain the publicity because they were not the historical cases. They were current and cases that were the criminal cases. A number of them, yes.
Right. And Doctor, have you published any articles or book chapters on matters that are relevant to your profession?
Yes, I have written several book chapters in an encyclopedia on gunshot wounds, in an encyclopedia, and several articles in journals that include anesthetic deaths, that includes trauma, motor vehicle accidents, and I'm just trying to recall a few others. Oh yes, I did 2 chapters also in another book, one relating to pediatric abuse and trauma, and the other relating to the examination of unidentified bodies. So it's quite a wide spectrum of teaching academic endeavors that I have been and still am involved in.
Thank you, Doctor. Can you give the Honourable Court a sense of the documents, perhaps the transcripts and other reports that you consulted with in order to prepare yourself for this hearing and of course for the reports that you have provided?
Yes, thank you, my Lord. The main sources of information that I read for the opinion were the original autopsy report of Professor Gordon. I'm paraphrasing rather than reading word for word, my Lord. I'm hoping that is okay. There was a text of reports by 2 forensic pathologists from Denmark, on Drs. Halvorsen and Voigt, on behalf of Amnesty International, which I read. I read Dr. Biggs's report, 2 reports, both dated 11th of November, one a full report and then one a short additional supplementary note. I found a page of body diagrams with a hand sketch of injuries. I'm not too sure where the source was, my Lord, but it was stated that he was an illustrator in the Truth Commission's special report. I'm not sure whether he was someone employed by the family to assist. And then the transcript of original inquest records, which I had in hard copy, and then 31 photographs. Some of these were duplicated. I find that there were about 16 of them that were, when I excluded the duplications, for example, 16 of them, different photographs, both in black and white and electronic color images. But these photographs were taken at a time and date after the autopsy. However, amongst them, there were 3, I think 3, that I believe were taken at the time of the autopsy. And then there were also, I think, 3 or 4 that were taken at the scene. So I had access to all of those sources.
Thank you, Doctor. And can you indicate in your report at paragraph 7 that not all the resources that you would have liked to have considered were available, such as the original text of the reports of Professor Labsha, Shapiro, Simpson, and Doctors Gluckman and Lawrence?
Yes. Yes, particularly. And I think, I stand to be corrected, I don't think it's still surfaced at all.
To the best of my knowledge, not, but I will check with my team. So, Doctor, what steps did you take to place yourself into a position where you could consider and examine what transpired at the scene of death in the cell itself?
Yes. So the steps I took were the full reading first to get the context, a full general reading. And then what I did was I used a volunteer. It was my technician, my laboratory technician, who was the same size, the same height, but certainly a much better built. He was about 80 kilograms. But I wanted to use a good volunteer to reconstruct the position and lie in order for me to better understand the forces at work to cause the death. And I used the information from the death scene report of Professor Gordon, and as well as his post-mortem report, but mainly the death scene report and the photographs. And then from Mr. Moodley, T. Moodley, who I understand has already testified, his measurement of the site of attachment, of the height of the site of attachment of the ligature being 56 centimeters, 56.5 centimeters above the floor, and which I subsequently verified when I visited the police station a week ago. Was it? Yeah, a week ago, just over. And then carefully, under my guidance, applied or appeared to apply a ligature, but certainly not, which wasn't that tight, upon the technician and his position. And I can show the 3 photographs that I've got from an artist's reconstruction. So you could see the, yes, you can see the side view. And here, it would appear that the, okay, sorry, I'm just getting used to this, that the hitching, okay, it's not the right pair of glasses, unfortunately, that I have, that the hitching to the, oh, forgive me, this is not going to be easy. Right. The hitching was at a point, so it was a second round upright. A second round upright transfer to the transverse bar. So, in other words, just a square bar at the edge, and there's one, and the second one here was the position of. Sorry. No. Maybe it's not. So, Lord, forgive me, this is the position. If you could see, the important thing from here is that I worked out that the weight is carried, the greater portion of the weight, and I think Mr. Moodley worked out the weight distribution. The greater portion of the weight was carried by his left side and buttock lying on the floor, Sorry, this seems to be...
If the pointer doesn't work well, perhaps you'll just have to
Yes.
abandon it and then explain
Yes.
as best as you
Maybe
can.
I'll only use it when it's necessary. Okay. The left knee and thigh and portion of the left side, and I believe that if you can see in this, on the second image, you can see that the shoulder is resting against the bars. And what it is his head is slumped, tilted forward onto its left side. So that was almost all the traction on that ligature. A traction there. Now, it's important to understand that my impression is with the amount of traction, even with the tilt weight of the head, I felt that the normal traction from that level, without the twisting, will probably not give him enough of a constriction. Okay, that was important. So, what was and one can be seen. Just looking at the next photograph. Yeah. I think the tilt of the head and the lie of the body can be seen on his left side. And what's important here is after the twist, which I worked out has to be a twist to his right side. Assume if the deceased did it himself, it would have been a twist to his right side, not to his left, and his shoulder against the bars would have been a prop or a stay or a brace to prevent the body from reactively untwisting. Do you see that? So it's twisted to his right side. So every time if he did it himself, he would have had to turn to his right side. So his shoulder against the bar is now a bracing to prevent him from untwisting. So that's the position he's sitting in. Now, we could see also on that ligature, which I didn't apply to the technician, that ligature is extremely constricted, and the testimony even of Professor Gordon, he used the word extremely tight constriction. It's difficult for me to assess the number of twists that were required, apart from the fact that it was a dual hitching by both pants leg portions, but I estimated it would at least have been 4 or 5 twists to create that considerable tension in that ligature. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Would it be helpful if we put onto the screen the police photos we have from the death scene, which depict the ligature and the hanging and the suspended head?
Yes, I think it's a good idea at this stage.
Okay,
Yes.
my junior will do so. My lord, these are in volume B from page 784, figures 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Yes. This is indeed the correct photographs.
So I think that is figure 1. Do you have any comment on that photograph, Doctor?
Yes. The important thing to note is that the ligature is tied to that position as mentioned, the second round upright. And when one looks closely at the handkerchief, scrutinize it to figure out, it was important to figure out whether the handkerchief was tied over as a subsequent securement to the trouser knot, or whether it was interspersed within the knot. Is difficult to explain. The one thing, difficult to work out. The one thing is that in the text of his report and in his testimony, Professor Gordon uses this twice. He says that in his report and in his verbal testimony that the handkerchief was subsequently or finally tied. So one might have to assume that the handkerchief was tied over the trouser knot. The right-sided knot around the neck is important to understand, the right-sided knot around the neck, because that when we look at the actual marks around the neck, that's going to be important to understand whether there was an angulation upwards. Difficult to work out, but one can see the angulation to at least a slight angulation, in other words V-shaped, because of the suspensory pull of the pull of the ligature, V-shaped on the right side of the neck and transversely on the left side of the neck. One would want to see that, but it's not completely clear because this is an unusual position and not often seen. Low suspension situations.
Yes, and you made reference to the evidence of Mr. Tavash Mudli, the aeronautical engineer who was also present at the inspection in Loco and who's provided a report, and as you mentioned, has already testified. In his report and testimony, he said that the academic literature suggests that a constriction force or pressure of 15 kilograms is needed in order to induce death through suspension, and that according to his calculations, the maximum force or pressure in this case would only have been around 11.7 kilograms, so a few kilograms short of the 15 kilogram threshold.
Yes. Yes. The 15 kilogram force referred to the force required to compress the trachea, to flatten the trachea, which is the windpipe, to compress the trachea, and that is correct. But I would like to add another aspect to this, that even before you get 2 kilograms of force starting to compress the neck, you can get the lifting up of the palatoglottic apparatus, that is the root of the tongue, to occlude the airway anyway. So it's another factor that would apply even with lighter neck constrictions. For example, if one watches, and just to explain this to court, my lord, if one watches somebody swallowing, just watch the neck, it goes up and down. That is the swallowing glottic and pharyngeal apparatus. They're all loose. And with the Adam's apple, when you swallow, it goes up and down. So if you have any constriction that lifts slightly, it also acts the very same way to lift those soft tissues with the cartilage, with the hyoid bone, with the trachea, lift it up and raise the root of the tongue, the base of the tongue, the back of the tongue, to occlude the airway in any event. So Mr. Woodley's experiments were in keeping, they were good, but this is an additional biological aspect which he wouldn't have known. Anesthetists know it, and doctors know it, etc. The action of the suspensory traction. And that is why it's believed that persons who are strangled or hanging, can die of that as one mechanism, one of the 3 or 4 or 5 mechanisms, with the lifting of the trachea, of the entire glottic swallowing apparatus against the floor of the palate. I'm not sure if I'm clear with that.
Yes, and I think we will be returning to that evidence in due course. But perhaps we can move to the next photograph to see if you have any comment.
Yes, yes, I did use that photograph.
And just for the record, I'm assuming that this is figure 2, my lord, in volume B at page 787.
Yes, I did look at that particular image to reconstruct my pictures, and I think this particular image shows the number of turns on that ligature very well, my lord, and the number of twists, rather.
And it appears to be extremely taut or tight.
Yes, extremely tight. The idea that this was an extremely tight ligature came to me, or comes to someone before they see Professor Gordon's report, which also supports this very tight ligature. I have seen such tight ligatures before, and only in one situation, and that is in homicidal strangulation.
Right. Well, we're certainly going to return to that aspect, Doctor. And then the next photo is figure 3 at page 783.
Oh yes, sorry, that's not quite easy to look at. I think it's the only, it's one of the few photographs that actually shows a deceased face, and in this lord, the face the head being tilted over to the left side and downwards, almost in this left-sided flattened downwards position, and the face is engulfed in the crotch of the trousers, because it's at least the upper part of the trousers, the hip portion, the hip and pelvic portion, and Professor Gordon described that his head and his face was into the trouser portion that had crooked at the neck, but of course the free portion in front of his face.
Right. Thank you, Doctor. Let's move on to page 4 of your report. And Doctor, this is where you give a description of the visible injuries.
Yes.
We're going to put up figures 4 and 5 on the screen.
Yes.
And can I ask you to give the Honourable Court a sense of these injuries, just a high-level description and where they are located?
Yes. Thank you, my lord. What I did on this is a reconstruction of the injuries with careful observation of size and position and appearance. So it's observing artwork to be as realistic and correct as possible. So size and appearance and pattern are adhered to. I think the first thing is, if one can look at the back of the left shoulder there, Your Worship, my Lord, and that would refer, and I can refer to photograph number 822. 822, if that can be put up. 822, yes. There are a number of injuries on the body. In fact, in my count, I counted between 60 and 75. Someone else did count about 53 or 56, and others perhaps a different count. But what you can see here, and I'm not too sure if His Lordship can see here, next to these are spots of abrasions that were not recorded, but right here, and I don't know if His Lordship can see it. I can see it on my little screen, and I'm going to show it just about here. There is a pattern, an imprint pattern, and I'm circling it. Imprint pattern. I think there's another cursor that's covering it. It looks like a geometric pattern of multiple little red spots, but geometric and down in a line across and downwards, almost like the pattern that you would see on a carpet. You know, the rough, tough carpet tiles, maybe not as soft as this, or perhaps this. Or I thought the possibility of the sole of a shoe, but I can't exclude that it could have occurred post-mortem with the body lying on the mortuary trolley, although I can see nothing. I can recall nothing on a mortuary trolley surface that would produce that. So that would be one injury, and that was not recorded by Professor Gordon. So there are a number of injuries, several of them not recorded by Prof. Gordon, by the original
Would you regard
pathologist.
the failure to record that left shoulder injury as a significant omission?
Yes, I believe it is. I believe it is because in the teaching that we do about forensic postmortems, we teach that perhaps 75% or 80% of your time is concerned with the visible manifestations of injury and trauma on the external surface, and only just 25% with internal examination of the body. It's surprising, but that is the waiting for good forensic work, in that 75 or 80% of time is spent on the external examination, documenting, photo documenting, and drawing and recording the injuries. So I believe that missing injuries can't be excused, or can't be easily excused.
Yes. Thank you, Doctor. You can proceed.
I think I'm just looking at the diagram, and I'm going to work according to the diagram. Thanks, Advocate. There is over the front of the neck, and His Lordship can look at the front of the neck. It's right in that position there where I'm using my cursor at the front of the neck. It's a little notch you have between the collarbones, and there was a bruise over that position. It is it's one that was observed by Professor Gordon, and he took histology from there. I'm pointing to it. There's another bruise here over the. There's one bruise that he describes, my lord. I'm not drawing it. It's right in the front and the center of the chest. I haven't drawn it for some reason. I've recorded it. I note now when I reviewed it, it's a separate wound. But this I'm pointing to here is over the left lower chest front, and it is, sorry, thank you, left lower chest front. It is in a very important position. One, if one sees it in a medical case, in other words, a hospital-based case that came from hospital, one would think that there was evidence of cardiac massage, because cardiac heart resuscitation, cardiac massage can produce bruising over the front of the chest. But when it's on the left side, left lower side, and that's right over the cardiac position, at least it's over the apex of the heart, not the central portion of the heart, then it's an important site, because that's significant trauma. And although internally, and forgive me, I'm paraphrasing and jumping, although internally a bruise over the left chest front can cause a fracture if it's significant, when one is young, the ribs are so pliable and movable, they don't easily fracture, but you can have significant internal injury. And I would be concerned that at some point that would have implied a cardiac impact, a cardiac impulse impact.
So, Doctor, are you saying that there is the possibility that that injury on the left chest could have come from an attempt at cardiac massage in order to resuscitate?
No, I don't believe it's that over the left front, left lower front would be from cardiac massage. That you would find in the central portion of the chest. It's well clear, noticeable. In fact, there was bruising of the central portion of the chest. There was. But on the left side, I'm concerned that that is direct trauma. It can be as a result of a blow or a fall. A blow that would be fairly strong blow can cause that.
Right. The question why I raise it is that later in your evidence you do raise the possibility of cardiac concussion.
Yes, I thought I'll just make that link at this stage. Yes.
Right. So naturally we want to know if there was a cardiac incident, whether there's any potential sign of an attempt at cardiac massage to resuscitate the deceased.
That is quite possible, yes. And one doesn't know what went on and whether anyone was trained to do cardiac massage, but that would be an automatic reflexive response, isn't it? To try and resuscitate somebody.
And you mentioned that there are visible injuries in the middle of the chest that could potentially have come from such cardiac massage?
Could have come from cardiac massage, yes.
Okay. My learned junior says that there's potentially a photograph depicting a bruise on the chest at page 857 of the 837 of volume B. Perhaps we should just look at that and you can comment.
So, Yes, there is. Actually, there is. On page 837, and if I may point to the two things we see here. There is a suspicion just above the elbow, in the front of the left upper arm. So his face is front and inside. And in one good hard copy image, my lord, it looks horseshoe shaped. It looks horseshoe shaped. There's another wound on the left ankle, left to right ankle, that's horseshoe shaped. Wound patterns are important. It tells you something was applied with an horseshoe pattern.
Thank you, Doctor. But it is clear to you that the darkish portion on the left chest,
Yes.
that is a blunt force injury.
Yes, that looks like, it looks to be, it's consistent with it. But I would be worried just looking at the photograph about hues and colors on scans. But then it is in Professor Gordon's report as a physical finding. So I would place a weight on that.
And in terms of the middle of the chest,
Yes.
You said there was some indication. Is that from a photograph or?
No, that's in Professor Gordon's report about
right.
central midline chest bruising. I can refer to that report while we're here. Yes. If you see Professor Gordon, are you able to refer to Professor Gordon's Annexure B?
Yes. Do you have a paginated number for us? On the top right.
Really? Annexure B, second page. Yes, that's the 759, yes.
My lord, that's volume B, page 759, Annex B to Professor Gordon's postmortem report.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's the second page of that annexure. If you just scroll slightly further, there it is, my lord. And I read, even I can make out this, even though there is a little bit of a gap in this in the scan of an old page. There was an area, number 11. There was an area of superficial bruising of the subcutaneous tissues in the midline of the region of the manubrium sterni, the sternal notch. So it was high. Okay, let me just rephrase that. That was higher than one would expect in normal cardiac massage. That was higher. It was at the sternal notch. It was troubling that there was an injury at that sternal notch. I'm not too sure what would have caused that. So it was not in the full midline. But number 12, deep, I think it's deep to the muscles overlying the lower part of the front of the left side of the chest. There was an area of bruising. The bruising extended over an area covering the anterior ends of the fused rib cartilages of the 8th, 9th, and 10th ribs on the left side. So it would be this area here, below the left nipple and on the left side of the midline, a low left chest front.
And that in your view, has the possibility of being caused by cardiac massage?
Yes. No, not cardiac massage. That would be trauma. That would be trauma.
Blunt force trauma?
Blunt force trauma.
Right. So in fact, there is no evidence of cardiac massage?
There
as such?
isn't actually. Not in the characteristic place, yes.
Okay.
Sorry about that,
No,
Mr.
that's fine. My lord, I see it is 1 p.m. Well,
Yes.
that clock, I think, is
Yes, no,
wrong.
that's all right. I think it's convenient time to take a long break.
As the court pleases.
We'll proceed at 2 o'clock then. Court is adjourned.